the Plan Commission to order, and I will ask staff to take a quick roll call.
Thank you. Mayor Devine.
Here.
Brian Frank.
Here.
Kathleen Degenhardt.
Here.
Rossi Maka.
Here.
Eric Torkelson.
Here.
Wayne Clark.
Yes.
We have 5 present. We have a quorum.
Beautiful. Next up will be a approval of the minutes from our meeting on June 23rd.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay. Any changes or adjustments, amendments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Guys have it, the minutes are approved. We will now move on to item D.
Thank you, Mayor.
You can take number 2.
Sure.
All right, Steve.
We have the Rogers behavioral health team here. Barbara Whitstone and Jack Colliers are here for Rogers. This is an addition to the existing hospital on 111th and Lincoln Avenue. The green area here represents the infill addition between 2 portions or 2 wings of the hospital. There's a newer 2007 addition, as well as an older part of the hospital on the left-hand side. So this new addition will be sandwiched right in between that. It'll feature a new entrance vestibule, and as well as a family consultation center. And they're also going to plug in a little cafe for a bit of a cafe, Starbucks type of experience within the area here. So the overall improvements here should improve the both patients, visitors, and staff's experience within the hospital. This is on the north side of the building, as shown in the picture here and on the elevation. The materials that are being proposed here will all be compatible with that of the existing building. The newer additions that's been added, you can see a lot of windows there on the left in the 2007 edition, and then those windows will be carried through the new entrance vestibule to the cafe on the right. This is the cafe area here, the main entrance vestibule, and then the family consult area over on this side. So the family consult area will have a brick facade, and then with sills, masonry sills underneath, and header, and then the metal fascia and metal panel outside of the glass. So it'll be a seamless transition, compatible with that of the existing, so we don't see any problem architecturally. In terms of our recommendation, we are recommending approval. There aren't any conditions of approval. The site's in very good shape. In 2019, they did a healing garden area on the east side of the building, and it's turned out very nice. So.
Mr. Mayor, a question for Steve. Will that cafe be available to the public?
That's a good. I guess if you go into the entrance, I don't know that. Yeah.
That's not the general concept, but
yeah.
You'd have to sign in.
Okay.
And it's more for as much for staff as patient families. Retention's tough, and
yeah.
we developed the similar thing in Oconomowoc, and it's been a huge pleaser. Some places you just get coffee and some sandwiches and snacks and so forth. And
Thank you. I'd move approval.
Second.
We have a motion.
Brian.
We'll give it to Kathleen. She was 18.
Well, there you go.
Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I say the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
You want to go out of order based on who's in attendance?
Sure.
I know somebody's here.
Yeah. Do we have anyone here for the Lincoln Crest Dog Park? No? Okay. We'll come back to that.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, Alpine Smiles is 20.
Yep.
All right, so this next item is a master sign plan for All Kinds Smiles at 7030 West National Avenue. This is a brand new building built by Max Miners. So this sign plan would have each tenant getting 1 sign per elevation. Their sign plan does meet the sign code with 1.5. So our calculation is 1.5 times the longest frontage if they have more than 1 frontage. And so with that, they would have 1 sign. So All Kinds Smiles has frontage on National Avenue, but they also have their main entrance on the parking lot side facing north elevation. So they're proposing to have a sign on both sides. And with this calculation, both of their signs combined can't total more than 112.5 square feet. Next slide, please. So this is just a look at the length of frontage that each tenant has, and quick calculation in the table just on the bottom right of each of those images to show how much each tenant has for square footage for each sign. So staff recommends approval.
Any questions from the commission?
And one part of this is that in the future, as future tenants come back for, new tenants come in and occupy this space, they're not going to have to come back to Planning Commission each time. This is really just to set the stage on the front end so that there's a master plan of how much each future tenant would get based on, like Tony said, based on their frontage.
So that when they're not going to have to come back and ask for a variance or anything like that,
Only if they're going to ask for something that over and above what
that is.
Tony presented here. Yeah. So.
Approval.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Here on
Number 4, or wait, number 5. Yeah, okay.
what's that? Take 5A, 5B together, please?
Yeah. Thanks, Gary. Paul and Christine Budiak are here representing Paulie's Pub, but and also on another property that they own just next door, the Duplex, just to the south of Paulie's Pub. Now, this is a separate property, and its current use is a residential duplex. What's on the property right now is a stage and a tent, which is used as an accessory feature for the licensed premise, which is Paulie's Pub, right in the corner of 81st and Greenfield. So what Paul and Christine are asking for this evening is that they're asking for they want to change the use of the duplex property from residential to a mixed use. Now the property it's unique, the duplex property is unique because it's the same zoning as that of the pub property. It's its own C2 commercial. So in order to establish a mixed use, you have to have at least a commercial zoning district, which this property is, just like that of the pub. So that's what they're here to do. They're here to apply for the mixed use category or classification on a commercial property that they own, adjacent to the, butting the pub. And then with that, it would comply with the zoning, and then they could keep the tent and the stage there. So this sort of came about as an enforcement issue where, Paulie's Pub was licensed to do. I can show you. I've got a slide a little further down. Paulie's Pub back in May was licensed to do the live music events on the Paulie's Pub property. Up to four weekly events. This is the actual copy of the license on the right here. 4 weekly events from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Now, Paulie's actually volunteered to reduce the number of events 3 times per week. Saturdays from 3 to 8, Sundays 2 to 7, and Monday 5:30 to 8:30. And then the sound level measurements, which are part of this license here, have to be equal or less than 100 decibels at 100 feet. So measured from 100 feet. And then there's also 3 porta potties on site, one being ADA and a wash station are provided on site. So that's the licensed premise of Paulie's Pub at 8031 Greenfield. He happens to have put up a tent and a stage on the duplex property just next door, and so this is the map, I guess, showing we have the Paulie's Pub property, the building in black, and then the licensed premise is that yellow line that you see around there, and then he has an existing tent just south of the Paulie's Pub building, and then that other photograph there, the pictured tent in that previous slide, that's the blue tent and stage on the duplex property. So again, the zoning is consistently C2 for all of the properties that the Budiaks own here. So he's just trying to reclassify it from just strictly a residential use to that of a mixed use, and that's going to allow him to keep, if Planning Commission, if the council approves that use, he could keep the tent and stage on that property. If not, there are, I guess, a couple other options. The option here he's picking is option B, to apply for the special use for mixed use, and then keep the tent, will allow for the tent and stage on the duplex property. But if the council doesn't approve it, then he would have to relocate that tent and stage to the licensed premise, somewhere on that licensed premise. Or another option, maybe a longer term option, would be, someday, I think there could be a plan that maybe the duplex goes away, it's raised, and it's combined with that of the Paulie's Pub property, and now it's just a larger premise. So, but those are some of the options. Option B is the route we're talking about this evening, and it does require common council approval. There are some site improvements that the Boudiaks have made already. They've resided the garage, and they would be repainting that front facade. That's a different color there. It would be a consistently white or gray. I think it's a light gray color all the way around. And then there's a fence that's going to run from the Paulie's Pub property south down to the Field Trip property to provide a buffer to the residential neighborhood. And then the current tent and stage do actually meet and are permitted within the fire department's allowances. So staff is recommending approval. This does require a public hearing before common council. That will take place, we expect, on September 7th. And if there's any questions or need more clarification, I guess we also have Paul and Christine here too.
Wait.
Mr. Mayor, Steve, I don't know if this applies, but I was flipping the channels recently and came upon a common council public forum and watched a parade of citizens go to the microphone and complain about the noise coming from this facility. One guy claimed to understand that the decibels were well over 90, over 100. Does that issue that the council was presented, does that impact this particular proposal? Are they tied together?
Yeah, I mean there have been noise complaints. I mean with the live music that's taking place on the premise, there have been some complaints about sound, and then people allege that it's over a certain limit or it's too loud. I know our health department has been out there, and then also Paulie's has been monitoring themselves. They indicate that they're under the threshold. Our health department also indicates that at this time. I mean, there's going to be additional readings taken, but that is being monitored. So it is a discussion point that I'm sure we're going to hear again at common council.
So when you have the public hearing, I would expect this to be raised again?
Correct.
And the council can grapple with it.
Yes.
So we should just give approval to this and move it forward.
What are we doing? I'm sorry, excuse me. What goes on with the duplex? Is that somebody living there, or
Yeah, we have renters.
and they know about the band?
Yeah, everything. They've been there. Our lower tenant's been there 7 years, and our upper tenant's been there like 4. So last year we did it there.
Yeah,
And
right.
we've had stuff there like the last 8 years. We figured it was the best buffer to have the least amount of impact on the neighborhood. So you have a break wall basically to the east and to the west, so noise funnels towards State Fair. So that's kind of what we thought was the best option. If I put the stage where the tents and table are, it shoots to the boarding house, and then it goes more to the neighborhoods.
So we're trying to do the subject of the duplex so we can kind of get more of a buffer for this whole thing to
It kind
happen.
of hides right in there. There's trees right behind the stage, and there's the duplex is to the west, and the garage is to the east. So any sound there is muffled. If you go on the fence line, you're talking like 60 decibels, which is kind of like talking like how we are. We have a spot 100 feet from the stage, 100 feet that's next door on the west side, right by State Fair Inn, 100 feet to the east that we go, and 100 feet south in the Field Trip parking lot. Those decibel readings are consistently between 80 and 84, no matter what our bands are. And we do every hour when the health department has come across the street. It's 60, 65. We want to keep music, so we want to adhere to everything. We brought it to the licensing and health committee to do that. because through the health department, it's like 97 decibels is what the rating is. So we've tried to do as much as we possibly can, so.
I'd move to advance this to the common council.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Have you had any conversations with the complainants that were at the council meeting referenced earlier?
I didn't even know there was anybody at a council meeting.
This was a couple months ago.
It may have been, I talked to the one gentleman, and he said it doesn't matter if it's 11 in the morning or 11 at night. I don't want music, I don't,
Okay.
and I understand that. The harder thing is, in that building, it's the boarding house. They can rent for a week, and then they can move out.
Yeah.
If I want to sell, it's going to take me 3 to 5
So
years.
the complaints are mostly coming from off of 81st Street and not the place to the east of you on Greenfield Avenue, correct?
As far as I know, there were 3 petitions that went out. One was because of parking. Okay, so now, which I've been announcing on Facebook, because Greenfield, there's certain spots that are open. People still don't know that. So like brewery games, I'll park my vans so people actually see that and stuff like that. And that was a big complaint, because one of the boarding houses has 6 spots and 10 tenants. So they've got and then the other boarding house to the north, right behind State Fair Inn, they have like 11 spots and they've got 27 tenants.
You mean the south?
Right south of State Fair Inn.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah, yeah.
yep. And then the other one has like 9 spots and they've got 22 tenants.
Okay.
So we've tried to work with them. We had music last year and he never ever said anything. So all of a sudden he came and I was just like, I'm trying to. I don't know what's going to happen in fall with everything that's coming up. So we're just trying to squirrel away as much as we can, because every day we don't know if we're going to be shut down again. It's like a revisitation of last year. So whatever we can do, we try. And a lot of people come because they want to feel kind of normal yet. It's not like
Right.
it's over. So
No, I get that. I just was curious.
So
if you had any
I've talked to them.
problems.
I've got a couple people in that building that come to all the concerts.
Okay.
And then there's some that come outside and sit and just watch them. Because and I got guys in all the buildings that do that. So
Okay.
it's just, it was 3 different petitions with 10 people that signed all 3 petitions. So,
Yeah.
I tried to work with them last year. We had, where the house behind there, and I took care of that. She was going to nursing school, and her only time to study was noon until 6 on Saturday and Sunday. So we bought her noise canceling earplugs, invited her things, and that's kind of what happened. So
Okay.
no, we appreciate the city and working with us, and I had no idea as far as the zoning and stuff like that. I figured it's my property, so
Right.
so I appreciate you showing us a way to do this, or try to do this.
Great. Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We have nobody else here, so we'll go back by.
Item 3 is a private dog exercise area for the Lincoln Crest Apartments on 102nd, just south of Lincoln, north of Lincoln Avenue. It'll be up along the 894 near the sound wall, probably about 200 feet setback from 102nd Street, and it'll.
Excuse me, Steve, will you speak up just a little bit?
Oh, sure.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So this will be a 10,000 square foot area. It's an existing tennis court and basketball court, and they're going to be installing a dog exercise area. We're removing the tennis court and basketball court paved surfaces and putting in grass turf. It's an existing 12-foot high fence from the old tennis court basketball days, and then they're going to be also installing 4 pet waste stations and bag dispensers. Hours are generally 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So this can be self-managed by the Lincoln Crest Apartments. It's owned by Blake Capital Management, and it's an amenity for their tenants, is what it comes down to.
Move approval.
Just attendance, right? Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. We'll go on to item 6.
Six is a proposed ordinance to redefine what a medical service facility is, and then also establish a definition for a narcotic treatment facility, and then to place or establish those medical or narcotic treatment facilities within a C4 zoning district, which trickles down to our manufacturing zoning as well. So, that's the general gist of summary of the two parts of the ordinance. We'll get a little bit more detail here on exactly what a medical service facility is and what a narcotic treatment facility is. According to the definition that we are changing here, a medical service facility is an outpatient facility which provides blood or plasma donation, kidney services, kidney dialysis, birth centers, or treatment of sexually transmitted diseases. There's also some additional language in there right now, which is the red crossed off part that we're eliminating. The green parts are new portions that we're just sort of replacing. And then the narcotic treatment facility is a facility that follows more or less the state statute definition of a narcotic treatment facility. It's a facility that provides opioid treatment system, including a physician who administers or dispenses a narcotic drug to a narcotic addict for treatment or detox. Allows for a comprehensive range of medical and rehabilitation services. And it's also approved by the state methadone authority as a designated federal government regulatory authority, and is registered with the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration to use a narcotic drug for the treatment of a narcotic addiction. And then the other part of this, so that with those definitions, the other part is now where are we going to, establish these within our city. The areas that we've identified in this ordinance draft here are that we want to place them in the C4 regional commercial district. This would be the Highway 100 area between basically Grant and the South City limits, which goes down to roughly about Morgan Avenue. And then it buffers out from there. I've got a map on the next slide. And also, they would be allowed in M1 and M2 zoning districts. So the next slide here shows kind of the spatial look of where these could be located. These are the two representative zoning districts. So you've got the C4 in red, and then the M1 and M2 are in purple. And then the amount of acreage, approximately, there's about 1,100 acres of M1 or M2 zoning, and there's about 270 acres of C4 commercial zoning. So to maybe just go take a step back here, one of the things that we're also doing, so aside from those two districts being allowed for narcotic treatment centers, we're also installing a separation clause, and those are the Roman numerals down below where it says E, narcotic treatment facilities located no closer than 1,000 feet from the following: parcels zoned or developed for residential use, parcels with a school that basically meets the state statute definition of a school, parcels zoned for parkland, parcels with another narcotic treatment facility. The idea here is that, while we realize there is a disease or addiction, a disease in this country, and metro-wide, we don't want these facilities locating in frequency and in close proximity to residential areas, parks, schools, and so on. So we welcome them, but there's going to be a place for them. And honestly, other cities really need to sort of take on some of the demand as well. So that's really where we're going here with this.
Mr. Mayor, Steve, what's driving this change?
I think, we currently have, at least as far as I know, there's two facilities in our city right now, and I think we've received some complaints and concerns for citizens as well as other businesses, and people, whether it be panhandling or frequenting businesses and washing in public restrooms. So there's a concern of kind of a side effect of people trying to better themselves, but at the same time they're not quite there yet. And, when you have a number of people coming to one facility, it can spill out and affect other.
So with the
areas.
two facilities currently in existence and some problems, how does this ordinance impact them?
Well, they would be considered legal non-conforming. So the two locations, just try to ballpark figure of it. Highway 100 National is one such location, so right about here.
Okay.
And then the other location is up on Theo Trekker. So we've got one in a C4 district and one in a M1 manufacturing district. They would be considered, while they're in the appropriate districts, problem is that they're within 1,000 feet. Both of them are situated within 1,000 feet of residential areas.
So when this passes the council,
Yeah.
then they would be shut down?
No, they'd be allowed to stay. They're legal non-conforming. They'd be made legal non-conforming uses, and as long as they run their business, or even if they go out of business and another one moves in, as long as it's not more than 12 months, that could continue. If it goes to 13 months or 12 and a half months without a use in that location, then it has to conform to the new use, has to conform to the zoning. One thing that we're also taking a look at, and I haven't had time to have our GIS department take a look at it, our IT department. I want to have them sort of take a look at these separation clauses here and plot on the map. What would the eligible properties be? How many are out there?
Yeah.
That if somebody wanted to come and say locate at maybe a strip mall, Southtown Shopping Center, would it work or would it not?
Did these two facilities, did they come before us, or didn't they have to?
They didn't have to.
They didn't have to. They were, so back in 2016, we created a definition for medical clinic and medical service facility. And those two facilities were within the definition of medical service facility, which was allowed in the C3 zoning, C4 zoning, and manufacturing zoning districts. So we're kind of pulling back the reins a little bit and making it, I wouldn't necessarily get harder, but there's a place for these businesses within our city. But again, we just don't want the density of these uses broadcast all over the place. We want other municipalities to take their share as well.
I'm sorry,
Sure.
are we saying then those facilities are really taken up, like from Brookfield in West Wauwatosa and all that, so they're coming here
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
do that? Okay.
I know.
And we just,
There's another one, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's another facility on the South Shore, one of the South Shore communities. I know this specific entity that's on National was looking at a Milwaukee location, but it got rejected.
yeah.
But this is a countywide regional problem, and I think concentrating these facilities in one area, I've gotten complaints about panhandling at Pick and Save, at Target, at Piggly Wiggly. The restaurants up and down Highway 100 have people going into their bathrooms and bathing and hanging out.
Parking.
It's a needed service, but it's needed by the entire region, not just
Yeah.
people that come here.
The one on Highway 100 is constantly flooded with people,
Yes.
and there's always people standing outside, and
There was somebody hit by a car on
Yeah,
Highway 100
yeah,
earlier this year.
yep.
I don't know for sure that was related, but
Yeah.
that there was a lot of speculation that was an individual that left that facility.
Going forward, Mayor, will these facilities have to come before us for application?
No.
No, they'll be considered permitted uses, Wayne.
Yeah.
But again, there are some.
I mean, how do
Deadlines here.
we manage this? I'm gonna hitchhike on the mayor's comment. This is proliferation, but it seems to be hitting West Dallas pretty hard. And that just takes more police support, paramedics, absolutely. How do we manage this so that we're not overrun?
I think this is one
This is
example.
This is the answer.
But this
This is
doesn't
one
limit
step.
the number, does it?
But
It will.
It will.
It will.
Because if you have that 1,000-foot separation between residential, it's from property line to property line. So when you extend it to the premise of the property versus just the structure, you're broadening the area that they would be allowed. And that's why we can, if we do have inquiries, which we get all the time, we can say, here are the spots you can go, and maybe it only limits it to 10 places in the entire city. But
But that's only if they shut down.
no,
12 months, and
No, so like Steve said, they're legal non-conforming. So community, I'm just going to use the one on Highway 100, community medical services. If they go out of business tomorrow and no one comes in there and this ordinance is in place and they are vacant for 12 months, then they can't run another medical service with methadone type clinic in there. However, if they shut down and John Deere, comes in and he runs his business as a community medical service with the methadone clinic, he can still operate that
So what's the
Within a
turnaround?
year.
within a year. But
What's the turnaround for these type of businesses? Or
they're permitted uses, so when we get them in, we process the letter. If they're not doing any type of, but even if they've applied and they have the ongoing occupancy and they occupy that space within a year, even if they're doing any sort of construction or building permits inside, they will still get their permits and their occupancies.
Steve, so I have a question. So what's the driver for these businesses like choosing to locate in West Dallas and say not surrounding communities?
I think it's the number of times they must get data from probably emergency services, the number of Narcan administrations throughout the metro county-wide area are, if you guys look at that.
Transit is,
yeah.
Yeah.
Central location. I mean,
Yep.
when
We're in the
we
middle of
picture central
everything.
location to every business, it's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same central location for every business.
How long have these two clinics been around for a while? I mean, personally, I don't know. so
Community services possibly going on 2 years, and
Okay.
then that was the old Payless building.
Yep.
And then the other one's been there longer on Theo
Where do
Trucker.
we have?
Right around the same time. I think the one on Theo Trucker came in first, and Community Medical
And
Services
we
just
have
about
these
over a year.
clinics that are coming out. And they're wanting to locate here in
We've
West
had
Dallas?
several inquiries, yes.
And what have we done with those inquiries? Just
We've told them that they wouldn't be, the one we had was a mixed-use property, or a split zone property, I should say. That was C4 and M1. But the lesser, the more restrictive of the two covered the entire property versus M1. So they weren't allowed to go in it because it was a C2 or C3.
Yeah.
So that was our most recent one. There was one somewhere else too, but it wasn't allowed.
Steve, give a description of what kind of problems these two locations are creating, and what are we doing to address the problems? How are they being addressed?
Well, I know we've met with
Yeah.
community medical services
They're-
here.
Thank you. Yeah, they're based in Arizona, and when we were getting increasing complaints, they were very responsive. A lot of the outdoor loitering issues were somewhat due to COVID because they didn't want everybody waiting inside that space, and they did make some changes to their operation. But I would say it probably did reduce the number of complaints, but they're still coming in. And they were responsive. I will give them props there, but there just been recently even a couple I know in the community moved to another community because they had people walking up and down their street that were looking and peering in cars in residential areas of that vicinity.
Mr. Mayor, just to segue slightly, what can we do about all the panhandling? I mean, it's all over the county, all over the state, I suspect, but we sure have our share, or more than our share.
Yeah.
And they work these corners, and they're like permanent fixtures. What can we do? Is there anything that can be done?
Tell people to stop giving them money.
I agree.
That's why they're there, because they're
I mean,
making money.
they're making a living.
They're on freeway exit ramps. They're up by Mayfair. They're
Yep.
all over the place, and it's illegal to be on the median. I've called in to the non-emergency number when they're on the median,
Okay.
but on a private sidewalk, I believe it's allowed. And there was a case in a neighboring community years ago where they tried to get very strict with their panhandling ordinances,
Mhm.
and the ACLU was involved, and it became a civil rights issue for these individuals panhandling, and it could have ended up costing that community a lot of money in a lawsuit.
Thank you. Do you need a motion on this?
Yes, if you guys are ready to make a motion. If you're
Sure, I'll make a
comfortable.
motion. Move it on to somebody else.
Second to leave it on.
second to moving on.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 7.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a ordinance amendment to section 1213 of our zoning ordinance. As you're aware, whenever we have site landscaping improvements to a property that comes before the planning commission, there's usually a cost estimate requirement and then a surety bond or a letter of credit, 125% of the estimated cost. And we apply that pretty much across the board for the most part for just about anybody that's making site improvements, from very small businesses on up to the big developments we review and approve. So this ordinance intends to streamline the process a little bit by taking a step out and making it more of your option to require a bond or not require a bond. We want to make it a little smoother for people, especially like small businesses, smaller projects, to want fewer steps to get into business or to get that building addition or site improvement made. So that's really the intent of this ordinance, just to sort of streamline and reduce make it simpler for people to move along. The actual ordinance, it's a fairly simple change, changing the will, in other words, a shall to a maybe or may. So all the other language stays intact as it currently is, and then we can make our recommendation like we normally do, that we're not recommending a surety bond in this for a small little project over on say Beecher Street, or maybe for a larger redevelopment process or project like a Mandel or a Ogden, Festival Foods. I think we probably have that in there. We'd make that recommendation, but it'll be up to you. It'll be your discretion as to whether you think it should be there or it shouldn't.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Go back a slide, Steve, to that second point, which is
Sure.
that you had considered eliminating it altogether.
Yeah.
Why didn't you go that route?
We'll just try it without. We'd try it with the option first. I think we're gonna be working on an zoning ordinance amendment, an overhaul to the overall thing, probably in the next coming budget cycle year, and we may just do that. But I guess I want to kick the tires and test it out a little bit and see how it works first.
And the whole issue of discretionary invites issues. And what has the city attorney said about this?
As long as the governing body decides you don't want it, in other words, you don't want the bond for a small little landscape project over on 76 and Beecher or something like that, you don't have to recommend it. You don't have to make it a requirement of your motion. Just take it out, or we'll let you know that we didn't put it in there. But if you want it in, you say, I'll approve it subject to, and then you want the bond. Or
So the city attorney is okay with this?
yes.
And will the decision, not the decision, but will a recommendation be coming from you and your team as to what we should do?
Yeah, we will not. I guess if it's not in the recommended list of things, then we're recommending it shouldn't be there, and we'll, I guess as we get into this thing, we'll just let you know that we purposely didn't put it in there for XYZ reasons, and then you can agree or disagree with us.
Like,
Yeah.
so like the dog park, we wouldn't need a surety bond for that.
Typically we would, but in this case, it's just a small private project.
I'm just thinking with this in place.
But with this in place, you can
With
say, you know
this
what, I
in
don't
place,
think we
you
need
can
it.
just have it,
Right.
just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
But if it's something like, hey, I'm raising a building and we're doing this, then we'll want something.
Yeah.
I move for approval.
A second.
Any discussion? Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have, motion carries. Item 8.
Thank you, Mayor.
You've got to read the letter first. Right?
So,
Mike?
purposefully left it small just to show that we mailed out a letter yesterday. So you might remember that last time we met, we talked about rezoning all along the Highway 100 corridor. We were rezoning a lot of M1 manufacturing and C4 regional commercial into C3 community commercial. The purpose of that is to mostly just avoid undesirable uses, for example, check cashing, car wash, auto sales, dog kenneling, pawn shops. And this also would bring this in line with the Highway 100 corridor study that was adopted about a year ago.
Yeah.
And also another reason we're doing this is to remove split zone properties. So there's a few properties along the corridor that are zoned, that have 2 or 3 even different zoning designations, and we just want to kind of streamline that and make them just one zone to avoid confusion. So we just mailed out phase 1, so we're mailing, we're first going to bring through all of the properties south of Cleveland Avenue, and then and invite them to an informal or an informational meeting on August 18th. And after that, then we're going to bring them through common council and have them officially rezoned. And then we're going to do phase 2, which is all the properties north of Cleveland, on up to about June.
We'll have an opportunity as well to bring it before you in August. I mean, if we're ready in August, we'll bring it before you in August, and you know, for your recommendation, and then we would anticipate a public hearing maybe as soon as maybe September, maybe October. We'll see, I guess. Well, a big part of it is going to be getting that neighborhood meeting and getting feedback. And we're going to find out who's okay with it and who's not, and what their reasons are. Probably before we schedule anything. So. Yeah.
There's the other
one.
The other side, going just past Oklahoma.
Is any action required?
No, this is just a discussion item.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? A whole discussion?
Does that anything got to change when they rezone?
There are a few
There's some
uses.
place going to have to relocate. And,
There's a handful of uses that would become legal non-conforming.
Okay,
So
so
some
that's good.
a couple check cashing places,
Okay.
a car wash. Is there an auto sale? I don't think there is.
No, no.
Not in this
no
round.
kennels, no
Nope.
pawn shop. So yeah, that's pretty much it in this phase.
So as long as they stay in business, they're okay. But the minute they leave, the clock starts ticking for that 12-month
12-month
cycle.
thing again.
Yep.
Okay.
There's nothing else on item 8, then we'll go to item 9. Updates?
All right. If you want to just click on it and open it, you can.
Sure.
Instead of trying to strangle me.
This one here?
Yeah, you can start with the first one.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Well,
Go to the second one.
you want me to go to the?
Yeah, just go to the planner drive. We had it all set and ready.
Just try taking
But apparently not.
Oh, I'm gonna try hitting this
Try
one.
hitting it from there. Either one. The first one's more important, but
Okay.
alright. It's good. They're both on the shared drive. No. Alright.
No.
Promise, they're actual links. There's stuff there.
I have to log into OneDrive.
Yeah, you just go to Office, and then you can do Office, the web one. Yep, that'll be quicker. And then go to SharePoint.
Okay.
Planners.
Oh, hopefully I hit planners. Nope.
Nope.
Virtual City Hall. Planners.
And then Documents. Then you do the SLA one first.
There we go.
It's all the way down at the bottom. That's like, you do that one first. And then go back, please.
Okay.
Okay, so as we talked about a couple months ago, we talked about site landscape compliance, and that something is being done about it between site landscaping, whether it's parking lot improvements or that are still outstanding, or any actual landscaping features or signage or sign maintenance. So here's a list of the current stuff that I've been working on over the last couple months. And anything that's highlighted, they're either they're outstanding, or some I have notes on the far right-hand side. If you can zoom out a little bit or slide over, and you'll see that I'm tracking how I contacted them. Most of them are just by a general email, and we've been able to get compliance that way versus sending what we call our nastygram from our software program. So this is a little bit more of a less harsh way to approach them, just saying, hey, not sure if you're aware, but this is that. I usually just keep my email consistent and copy and paste and change the address and what the issues are. and then I provide the current site landscape plan or sign plan that's on file, and cite any ordinance issues that are present. So most of them are in progress. There's a couple that I haven't heard anything from. The top one you'll see, and you'll love to find out that the missing trees that were agreed to be planted for the SLA on 116th Street are done. I was going to send them a reminder, and I drove by and I was like, oh, it looks beautiful. All the arborvitaes are there. It's freshly mulched. There were no weeds. So that job was easily taken care of, but the rest of them are being worked on. You'll also be happy to hear that the pole at the pylon sign, the old pole at the storage place near Festival Foods, is going to be removed. So they actually agreed to just remove it because they found no use for it to be there. So, which was nice. We didn't end up pushing for it to be removed, and it happened in our favor, so that was great. Colders had some bulbs burnt out. Mayor sent that one over. Suzette complained about it, so we're like, hey, we're on it. Yep, odors. So, yeah. So we're making progress. Things are happening slowly but surely. Some are delayed because of contractors, as everybody knows. They're delayed just because of COVID and material and time and work overload. So I always work with them as long as they stay in contact with me. I don't have a problem with that. So that's that. Does anybody have any questions on any of this?
Yes, the third one down where it says pushback, that was the...
Oh, so that was the initial. If you slide over, Steve. So this is the old Michael's building. And
Yes.
They did get pushed back at first, just kind of trying to push the hardship, the COVID. And we're kind of like, hey, we understand, but these are the regulations. Home Depot's coming into compliance. The building out front that used to be Shop to Carry On, he went through a really, really rough time, and I kind of had to play. I said, I'm very sorry. I understand these things happen. Unfortunately, everybody's kind of in the same boat. Everybody's situation is different. I understand that, but we really do need to see some sort of progress move forward. And if you want to take out all the landscaping, you're more than welcome to submit a plan like that, but I can guarantee that it's not going to be approved. So we need something. So he they started moving forward. They finally found a contractor in August that'll be planting, end of August into September. So
I think is that the
they own it from New York.
root of all evil?
That's right.
Yes, root of all evil. So it'll be in time for that as well, because we said, well, we could hold back this tenant, and we don't want to do that because we want to see root of all evil coming in. We need something in there, not only for their benefit, but for the cities. So, but that was kind of something dangling out there that we could kind of use in our favor to get something moving. And I offered up Home Depot to help potentially with watering. I gave them their contractor for their landscaping and said, here's who they use. They're local because these people are from New York, and they basically like, well, we don't know who to contact. I'm like, get 3 quotes. I'm not making a recommendation, but here's who they used, and here's the store manager's contact information. Maybe you can work on something where they can help water and monitor, since they have that readily available. So they must have worked something out. So
Thank you for introducing this tool and making it work. I think this is a good step.
Looks good.
Thank you. And then if you go back to planners, Steve, the code compliance.
This one?
Yep. So I just pulled this today. This is just my cases, not anybody else's. This is my cases. You'll see a lot of building code violation, but it's actually still site landscape or occupancy or signage. It just falls under building code violation because of the way the code's written. So there are 305 cases total that I've worked on since January of 2019, since I started. And you can see majority of them are resolved. There's probably about 20 to 30 that are outstanding or pending or in progress that have just been started. Several of those, about half, were probably delayed due to COVID. And they're ramping back up and trying to get them in compliance.
How do you, so many of these are building code violations, how do you dovetail with the building department?
So because I was in building inspection, we use a program called Director or BP Logics, which this is where this information is pulled from. And we have drop-down menus that we pick. So majority of them are stored under the building code violation. Even if they're a zoning issue, it's just the way the program was set up and not very well. So then I go and pick whether it's sign or parking lot paving or gravel parking and it's a commercial space that needs to be paved or things like that. So then I can differentiate within that what needs to be done. And then there's a notes section. So I get a lot of issues with occupancy, for example, people who don't have occupancy permits but have a business open. Some say, well, my landlord didn't tell me that I need an occupancy permit. I've been here for 10 years. I don't know why I don't have an occupancy permit. I don't know either, but let's just get you to where you need to be in compliance. You'd be surprised how many people are doing stuff without, and they're completely permitted use. It's not that they can't be there. It's just that they don't have a permit. So my only option in the system was to click building permits required. And then I have to write in the notes, well, you need an occupancy permit. You must do this, this, this. Doesn't matter if you have alterations or not. And add all in that and give them a compliance date. Usually that one's a lot less. It's 10 days. Like, you need to get the ball moving. You need to at least apply for occupancy and move it forward.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks for sharing this.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
So like building code violation could consist of several subcategories in here.
Correct. So most of it refers back to the property maintenance code, which is part of building inspection, and it not only applies to residential properties, but commercial properties. And then there are, like signs are in there because signs in the building code, but we handle this, our zoning handles the sign maintenance, or if a property is vacant for more than 6 months, they should take the legal non-conforming sign down because now it's been vacant and not being used. If they have some sort of content in there and it's in good repair, I do say, if you put a blank panel in there, or if you say it's for lease or whichever, I can't make you take it down. And as long as the cabinet's painted or the pool's painted, because we can't regulate that content. So we kind of have to tread lightly on some of those things. But if it's clearly falling down or falling apart or the elements are exposed, then it becomes a hazard.
So Steve, would this be something that Plan Commission, we could perhaps see this like on a quarterly basis? Just get an update if that's...
Monthly,
Probably send the-
daily.
Email notifications to us.
When we get our new system, we can send out an email blast.
Oh, boy.
Right.
We are working on something, so
Bring
please
your
say a huge
laptops
prayer.
around
Then.
the city and just-
There you go.
Hold on, where's Wayne?
There he is.
Oh, wow, okay,
Right.
good, nice.
Before we adjourn, I want to embarrass Rossi and congratulate her. I don't want to misspeak, so tell them exactly your graduate, your degree.
Sure, Concordia University, Construction Management and Trades.
Awesome.
All right.
Awesome.
Oversee construction for MSD at the wastewater treatment plant.
Very cool.
Oh,
Very
Never a
nice.
dull moment, I'll tell you that.
oh,
Awesome.
congratulations.
So then we have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to
So
adjourn.
moved.
Second.
Second. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Thanks, Steve.